Hey, ever feel stuck and wonder why some people achieve greatness while others remain average? Join me, Mark Jean, and Beyond Average to Great as we uncover the secrets to breaking free from mediocrity and unlock the greatness within you. Through inspiring stories and insights from people who have changed their lives, you'll learn how strong decisions and bold actions can take you to the next level. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Average to Great, where our guest today is Josh Christian. And Josh has been a technology professional since childhood and began a career in the home technology industry in 1995, which he collaborated with interior designers and architects to seamlessly integrate technology into their projects. And in 2017, Josh founded the Home Technology Association, or he co-founded it, and to establish a standard for integrators that helps design build professionals. So Josh, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to our conversation.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
So how did you come up with the idea of the Home Technology Association?
Yeah, so the co-founder, Eric Teese, who's someone that I've known many years. I used to work with him over at a high-end integration firm in Los Angeles for many years. And though I wasn't working at the firm at the time, Eric and I have been really good friends and stayed friends even when we weren't working together at the same company. And he had this idea of creating a standard for the home technology trade because it is such a loose trade that anyone could say they're a home technology pro. It's got such a low barrier to entry. And that low barrier to entry has caused a lot of problem and a lot of upset homeowners, left with these technology installations that don't work, or they call for help and all of this. So this has been an ongoing problem for anyone in the industry that's known for a long time. So we thought what this industry is lacking is a defined standard of excellence, some gold standard that differentiates the best companies out there. So that's what started it, as an idea to have a homeowner or a design and build professional to look to a standard to say, okay, if you meet this, then you're worth talking to.
I tell you, from my own experience of getting involved in this industry as an integrator, it wasn't something I planned to do. I didn't go to school for it. It just happened to be, I was somewhat tech savvy, and someone asked me to help another integrator ask if I would help them set up some Macintosh computers with their clients. And that was my whole intro to this industry. I didn't even know it existed. And from that, I can 100% testify that there is no standard. People can get into this industry without any experience or know how to run a business, know how to find jobs, know how to properly plan and support jobs, and even make sure they're focused on what the homeowner wants, how to talk to the homeowner to find out what their needs are, to make sure they deliver a product that's going to meet those needs and hopefully excel and exceed those needs. So what you guys are doing, I think, is very much needed.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on all of that. And another thing too that we really are pushing here at the Home Technology Association is to bring the best integrators together with the architects, designers, and builders to help them have a more cohesive working relationship. And that's the other thing too, that is something that this industry has a pretty poor reputation amongst those three trades. And it's because of these very problems, right? That there's so many folks out there that might mean well, but they just don't know what they don't know. Or they're, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people in this industry don't know how to run a good business. So they might be techie, but they don't know how to set up service departments or even think about service departments, and they don't document their projects. And, so they're the only guy that knows how to fix the thing if something goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
So all these things too needed to be defined and thought through. And we really worked hard to make this standard that we created here also have an aspect that a designer, an architect, and builder to look to this type of integrator as a design partner, someone that they could collaborate and trust and actually knows how to do CAD drawings and work with their plans, create layers of drawings to be a true collaborative professional. So another big thing that's been lacking that we're bringing to the fore.
Now, I've noticed just being a home tech, just being associated with HTA, you guys provide a lot of great material, I guess you could say, for us as integrators. And so, whether that's sales materials, how to approach these different trades and different collaborations, whether it's marketing material to help, differentiate us from all the other integrators that are out there. What brought that to being, as far as how did you come up with saying, hey, let's help these integrators be successful?
That's a great question. So one of the real popular tools that started right at launch, it was part of our website from day one, was another thing we're trying to solve. And the other, which is sticker shock and helping prospective clients, and for that matter, architects, designers, and builders to help manage expectations and know what the cost should be for their projects. So, I'm talking to you, so you already know this, you're nodding your head. Every home technology pro out there has had this situation where they sticker shock a client because they just don't know what this stuff all costs. They might go down to the big box store and see that you could buy a fairly large TV for a couple $1,000s now. So they think, well, it's only a couple $1,000s, then maybe I double or triple that, and I could have all this installed with a good surround sound system and have a great home theater. Well, that's not reality, right? So
Yeah.
when folks like you and other great integrators go out there, excuse me, and make these proposals, the client sometimes thinks you're crazy, and you're not. They just don't know. So we built this budget calculator, which took a lot of work to do because it's very simple, as you know, but it's a lot of work to make a tool that's simple that would take any homeowner, and this is really built around the non-techie homeowner, which is most of them, take them about 5 minutes to get a rough estimate cost. So we thought that would be a nice to have tool to launch with. And this turned out to be a way bigger thing than we thought. And we heard back right away from integrators that were using it that even their architects, designers, and builders were using it when they shared it with them, because now that helped them share with their client what a true cost is. And it makes the integrator not look like the bad guy by scaring them with this number first, because they could find out what that range is for what they want. And then there's a range. As you know, you use it quite a bit. The range is quite wide, because it's just like saying, well, how much is a car? Well, what are you looking for? A Toyota Corolla, or a Bentley, or a Rolls Royce? I mean, there's a big span. So by answering some of those questions on our calculator, you can narrow that down quite a bit, but there's still a span. And then from that point on, you have an organic conversation with that client, and then you could really kind of hone down and narrow what that budget range is. But that tool was created just to make life a lot easier for integrators, and also serve the builder and architect designer community with a simple to use tool that eliminates a lot of confusion. And doesn't make you look like you're trying to rip someone off, because you're not. It's just that's what things cost from a professional firm. So that's why we came up with that tool. Some of the tools that we're really proud of that have come up more recently are tools to help you work with the design and build trades a little better. And I've learned a lot myself over the years in working with the designers and builders and architects. So I've been an educator in this industry since about year 2000 is when I first started teaching classes, and I've literally taught well over 1,000 of these trade partners by now since then.
Wow. Yeah.
And I ask a lot of questions, and then they tell me a lot of things too. And what I learned from them is that, a lot of things I learned, but one of the tools I want to share, because there's a good story behind it, is the evolution of what you do. Right. So integrators started back in the 80s putting in audio, video, home theaters and media rooms and speakers around the house, hooking up stereos. That's the humble beginnings. Then it grew to fancy remote controls, the unified remote control. Then it's grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And now your good integrators are doing, shading and lighting fixtures, access control, Wi-Fi networks, this whole smart home, the full
Yeah.
automated thing. And I'm missing a few, I'm sure, security systems, surveillance cameras, all this. So it's so much. Oh, and energy management, that's another big one, and even wellness systems.
Mhm.
So it's grown so much that if you ask, you ask 10 architects, 10 builders, and 10 designers, what are all the things that you do? They're not going to get all that. They're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna go back to audio, video, and controls, don't they?
Yeah.
Right?
And technology is changing so fast. It's like, how do you keep up with all of it? And
Yep.
that's one of the challenges we have because things that worked 5 years ago don't necessarily work today in the same design. You have to redesign everything because people may not want these huge racks full of equipment anymore or create that space for it. They're just like, hey, how can we simplify this but get the same result? And technology is kind of catching up to allow you not to have like these refrigerator sized racks and have a room the size of a bedroom to house them all.
Yeah, you're right. It certainly has simplified. So to make their life simpler, yeah, because you're right. It's your full-time job to do this, right? It's you're having to read a lot of industry publications, emails. You're getting trained from manufacturers. You go to trade shows. So you're a busy man learning all this and keeping on top of your trade. And the message that we give to the design and build community is you don't have to know this stuff. You only have to know that it exists, but you don't have to get in the weeds because you can't. First of all, it's a
Yeah.
full-time job. And to deburden you from that, to take that anxiety away, here's the solution. Connect with a great technology integrator, someone like you as a team partner, invite them to the party early. They become a value design team partner. And the benefits for them is they have you. So whenever they want to know about a technology, instead of them going to Google, they call you. And then you distill all the latest, greatest on there.
Hmm.
So that is the message that I've been preaching ever since the Home Technology Association launched is architects, interior designers, builders, find a great technology integrator, and that's what HTA helps them do, filter that down. Find someone that knows what they're doing, has great customer service, and wants to work with you. That's proactive, that's
Yeah.
collaborative, that answers the phone and takes care of the clients, and then lean on them for all sorts of advice and latest, greatest news. And that's working. And that one page project technology assessment form, I would share it, but this is going to be a podcast, but it's the one page form. And on the show notes, maybe you could link to the one
Yeah.
you've got because you
Yeah,
have that.
I'll do that. I'll link to the different tools that we have. Um,
Yeah.
that's a great point too that you brought up as far as being in collaboration with these different trades, with the architects, interior designers, because I think so many people in our industry that aren't professionals at what they do not appreciate interior designers because interior designers tend to get in the way of them installing things or putting things in. And to me, the way I've always viewed it is, man, they're the ones that are creating these spaces in these homes. How can we integrate the technology to help beautify it or enhance what their design is? Because if we create a partnership with them, then they open us up to their whole client base as well as being able to serve them. So from a business building standpoint, it's just always made sense to me to try to partner with interior designers and collaborate with them and exactly what you said, be their technology partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that pushback, and you're right, I sense that, I don't sense it, I hear it outright. I talk to integrators every week around the country, and if I hear of a firm in a certain area that is a potential candidate to be an HTA company, I'll reach out to the owner and speak to them. And sometimes I hear this disdain for the design community, and I know this is not the right integrator for us. And because that brings up an attitude. Now, of course, no one can make everyone happy, so we have to,
Yeah.
agree to that at the outset. But if you single-handedly just, oh, interior designers are terrible, I hate working with them. Okay, next. It's
Yeah.
you, not them, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem. And yes, there could be I mean, there's easy to have, or I shouldn't say easy, it's fairly common that there could be a friction point between an integrator and interior designer, but that is lessened over the years because the products that are available are way more design centric than they used to be, right? So,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of cool tricks these days to hide TVs, hide speakers, make them invisible. The TVs themselves, of course, have come near, a couple of millimeters thin now.
Yeah.
But the what I think some of the problem that exists out there is because there's so many, because such a small percentage of integrators are really top in HTA. Just so you know, I'll go on record on this. HTA's assumption is that about 10% of the industry is really great. The ones that you would refer your friends and family to that do a great work. That's a pretty low number. It's pretty sad, actually. So, and that's not just my opinion. That's our board of advisors' opinion. And, many in the industry will agree that's about 10%. So let's just assume that's correct for a minute. If that's so, then what is the chance that an architect or interior designer and builder out there has had a bad experience with our trade? It's almost a given.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost a given. So I joke with integrators when I meet them. I said, hey, when you meet a new architect, designer, or builder, are you guilty until proven innocent? And they always kind of chuck and go, yeah. And it's because you're branded a certain way because, oh, geez, I've had such bad experiences with this. So sometimes I think with a new relationship, there's a little bit of apprehension from their side because of the industry being the way it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my advice for integrators is to lead very quickly with the fact that you're a design-centric integrator that cares about design, that will make the assumption that on a project that you're referred to, that you're going to want the technology hidden unless told otherwise. And they'll go, what? I love you. Like, really?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not going to put giant big box speakers and on the floor unless you and the client want them. There's a place for that, but most clients don't want that. And there's all sorts of hidden technologies and tricks and tips that I know as an integrator, and we work collaboratively on this to make all this disappear, and that works. So using
especially,
that,
especially like you said, if you get early enough on in the process, then you can help share those ideas and experiences that you've had. Because to me, all of the best projects we've done has involved an interior designer. Meaning they've come out great. It's things that you want to have pictures of to promote on your website, to promote on your social media. And when you can collaborate with them in such a way and get in early, that how can we, make our technology fit into your design, and how can we make things look a certain way? They can challenge you. Sometimes I guess that's maybe why integrators get frustrated is because, excuse me, that the interior designer challenges them in ways it's like, oh man, I can't just go put speakers in there. Now I got to find a way to hide them or make them invisible or whatnot. But I think those are things that make us better when somebody challenges us. And so,
yeah, I agree. They could make you stretch and think of creative solutions. And I would look at that as, maybe like you said, maybe some integrators don't like that. But look at the flip side of it. And I agree with you 100%. Some of the neatest projects, most beautiful projects, the ones that made it in magazines, were the ones where a designer was involved because they make the place look amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to be in those projects. And you make friends for life on that when you can make the technology meet the client's needs and still hide away or look beautiful, then you have a big win. And something I learned, a lesson I learned later on, is if you go through that extra step, you might get challenged, like, oh, we're putting a piece of furniture here, you can't do that, or we're doing this here and you can't do that. All right. And this is the thing that some integrators have a hard time wrapping their head around. It's like, well, is it textbook perfect? Well, maybe not, but find out what's driving this particular client. If they want to have the most incredible cinema experience or home theater experience, then speakers need to be in certain places, right? But if that's not the highest driving force and motivator of this client, it's more about aesthetics and certain other things. There's a little give and take and compromise.
Hmm.
And through, as you know, through all sorts of creative speaker technologies these days, there are ways that speakers can be hidden in all sorts of crazy places and invisibly, and the sound's going to sound pretty darn amazing.
Yeah.
To a movie producer, maybe, a sound score guy, you might come in and go, that's not quite perfect, but hey, the client's blown away. So
Hmm.
integrate, learn to compromise on that. And the other thing that I found out, a way to make really good friends with designers is, again, like you said, get involved early.
Hmm.
Tell them what's in it for them if you get involved early, like, hey, I'm going to make this technology disappear. And what I found is I would ask them ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to go to meet this client. I'm going to show you this project. Okay, great. Please tell me as much as you can about this project ahead of time. Like, what are we up against? Are we going to hide some technologies, or just give me some ideas and I'll come up with some, in my mind's eye, maybe some products that I could share with you that might meet that need. And and I would do that with them, and then I'd send them a link to, some lift or, a
Uh-huh.
visible speaker or something. And here's what I found out. They would sell it for me. Like I would go there and expect I'd have to do this dog and pony show, and you're giving them a little credit. Let them take the credit. They have
Yeah.
such great relationships with their clients. Let's say, oh, we're going to do a motorized lift here. We're going to put some invisible speakers here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this, and they don't even ask how much. They just go, okay, next. I'm like, oh my god. So
That's so true. I didn't think about that, but now that you say that, those collaborations, those times where I'm thinking that exactly what you said, I'm like, okay, they said they wanted this, but man, how am I going to sell this? This is, sometimes what they want is a specialized item and it has a pretty high price tag with it. But when the designer sells it, they just say, okay,
yeah,
and it makes it so much easier. So yeah, that's true. I should lean on that more.
yeah, never sell with your own wallet, right? What
Yeah.
the client cares about, and if they're hiring an interior designer, the interior designers, good ones, are not cheap, right?
Yeah.
They earn their keep. They make a good living,
Hmm.
and they're very talented. So that relationship that client and the interior designer build are often very, very strong, like friendships that last many, many years. So once that designer trusts you and they know you have their interest at heart, and it's a great relationship.
Hmm. So, in what other ways does HTA support its dealers?
So things like a couple ways. Besides the budget calculator, one of my favorite tools that we came up with about 2 years ago is something we call a project technology assessment form. I love this tool. We brand them now for every one of our dealers, and we have a generic one on our site. But what it is, it's a one-page cheat sheet. It's of all the different technologies that an integrator puts in. And I have to admit, this is not our invention. This was a request from
Hmm.
custom home builders. So I work with some associations, one of them being the NAHB, National Association of Home Builders, and they have a custom home builder committee. And after serving on that committee for nearly 2 years, a little light bulb moment happened when the chairperson of that committee said, hey, Josh, you've been talking for a couple of years and have all these different things that integrators do, and it's a lot. And the problem I have as a builder is, like, when I'm talking to a client, I forget that menu of stuff.
Yeah.
So can you, like, is there a cheat sheet out there? Like, this just sounds like a, checklist item that I could give to a client. And I said, that's a really good idea. And I asked around a bunch of integrators, I asked some of the big manufacturers, like, have you done this before? It's a great idea. And no one had. So we came up with it on our own. We call it the project technology assessment form. And it's been a massive hit. So that is a neat tool. If you're an integrator listening to that and you haven't used it, you'll be surprised at the positive response. If you're an architect, designer, builder listening to this, from the show notes on this, I said put yours on there, Mark, because you have one for Ardent that's all
Yeah.
branded, and it's
Yeah.
the same form. Everyone, just it has your branding on it, which is really nice. So that's a really neat new tool. And another thing that we've done to help the dealers is another project that we embarked on about 2 years ago. And while I was out educating the design and build trades, like I mentioned, I still teach to this day. I'm really curious. I'm really bent on getting them to see you as an early design team partner, right? To see you as a consultant and not as a contractor or just a contractor. Of
Yeah.
course, you're a contractor, but you're also a design consultant too. That's your phase one. So I'm really, really trying to change that perception. And while I'm out there teaching these folks, I bring that up. Phase one of a great integrator is they're a designer and a consultant. So they deserve a seat at the table. The good ones that do design and engineering, which, many of our members do that. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. They shake their head and go, yeah, that makes sense. And 100% of the time, when it's explained to them what's in it for them, and, just briefly, say less change orders, better aesthetics, less compromises,
Hmm.
and no project delays due to technology. You're like, oh shoot, we find about this now. We got to wire for it. Got to open up walls. It's going to delay the. No one's happy when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
When this stuff is designed in early, it's going to look better, less compromises. It's part of the whole schedule from the get go. And once you plot even the speakers and where all the stuff goes on the plans, now the framer knows where to put backing for the TVs, and he knows not to put a framing member where a speaker is going to go because it's
Hmm.
on the plans. So 100% of the time they go, okay, that makes total sense, right? There's been zero pushback with literally hundreds and hundreds of people who've heard this type of education. So then my question to them is, so now that you know this, what things would prevent you from bringing an integrator to your design meetings early? And then the gloves come off and they go, well, I have not seen that type of integrator before, or everyone I've worked with as they started telling me the problems that they have. Been a pushy salesperson, or they're not listening to the client, they're trying to push product on them, or it could have been bad service. Some of the stuff that I hear back is really kind of just bad human relations, right? Like, for
Yeah.
example, here's one I heard from interior designers. I referred the integrator got the project, but they didn't call me and ask what shade fabrics or what keypad finishes they wanted. They just assumed they wanted the white cheap plastic ones, where I would have had them put the nice stainless steel or the brushed metal, not stainless steel,
Yeah.
like the brushed aluminum finish on there. And like, why didn't they call me as the designer to collaborate? And I'm like, that's a great question. You brought them to the project and they didn't even collaborate with you. It sounds like they did their design in a vacuum. Like, thank you for the lead. We'll take it from here, right?
Yeah.
That's terrible. So listening to all of this, the whole point of this was we listened to their complaints, and then we created a code of ethics, or a code of conduct, I guess you could say, rules of engagement,
Hmm.
where those problems are addressed. That you're going to be a consultative salesperson, not a pushy salesperson, right?
Yeah.
You're going to collaborate. You commit to returning phone calls and emails within a certain time period. You always speak respectfully of that design partner or that builder in front of the client. If there's a problem, that you do that behind closed doors, never in front of a client. I mean, some of the stuff is basic, some of the stuff might be a little more nuanced. That's part of this code of ethics. But to me, this was a big help we've done towards the industry, because this is what came of that.
Yeah.
Listening to them, we went back to those designers and architects and builders and said, hey, we listened to you, and we came up with this code of conduct that we're thinking of releasing out to the world. If an integrator behaved this way, do you now feel comfortable bringing that person to your design team meetings early? And they go, yes, give me that. Give me that. Yes, I love to work with a person like this. So we branded it HTA Design Partner. And that's a very purposeful name, design partner, because we want them to see you as a designer. And that is a big help to not only our HTA dealers, but even for those that aren't HTA yet, but they could look to that on our site. It's a published code of conduct, and realize this was built not on opinion, but from the feedback of design and build professionals and what they want out of you.
Yes.
So helping, and what's the point of that, right? So you might have experienced this yourself. I did, certainly, when I was an integrator, that it takes a long time. It could take years, literally years, to build trust with a trade partner. Sometimes they trust you right away, but if they've been burned in the past, it might take 2-3 years of outreach for them to feel comfortable enough to give you a try on a
Yeah.
project. This is designed to shorten that period directly, drastically, to say, look, this is my promise to you. I'm on this HTA site. This is my personal pledge that I behave this way to show you how much I want to work with you. That's designed to take me what could take 2-3 years to hopefully weeks. Like, okay, I want to work with you. This is interesting. So that is a big way we're helping out. And also, that's a big way right there, is to help build better relationships with the trades, because once you do, they'll trust you and they're constantly sending you leads. And that
Yeah.
was the secret to my success when I was an integrator, is that I would build these friendships that they're still, by the way, sending leads to DSI where I used to work. So those relationships have lasted decades.
Wow. And I mean, hearing about these tools, I know about them. I just have not used them in the way you're describing, which now I'm like, okay, now I got to rethink that, because I think that would be very helpful. One of the things that I've done exactly what you've done is I'll ask interior designers, what is their biggest frustration at working with other trades? And one of the common thing that I've got back is a lack of communication, and
Yep.
which is something that you talked about. And so being able to communicate, whether it's, if you're scheduled to show up on a certain day and that you're going to be, that's not going to happen, then communicate and say, hey, we're not able to make it this day. We're going to have to push it back for whatever reason. But I think communication is so important. Not only with, if the designer has a team of people that they're working with, a cabinet guy or, a lighting person, whatever it may be, being able to be in communication with them to collaborate on the project so that everything goes as smooth as it can. There's always hiccups and always things that go wrong, but that communication, I think, is one of the biggest things that pop up in conversations I've had.
Absolutely. That's a big one.
So what's next for HTA?
What's next? What we are doing is furthering our reach to the architects, designers, and builders. So next year in 2025, after a slight website refresh, which is well along, we are going to even further get the name out to them and encourage them to look at our sites as a resource. So it's an all-encompassing resource. So we want, we're ultimately leading to you. You're the boots on the ground. We're an association. So our idea is our messaging and our purpose to the trades is to be a conduit to the best integrators and for information, just enough that they need to know to find the right people. So we are expanding our supporting brands programs, where we have some of the key manufacturers out there that support us. They have little microsite pages on our website for ones that believe in this mission of educating the integrators, because we're really helping bring the trades together. So it's education
Yeah.
on both sides, and HJ is working really hard to do that. And we've been demonstrating that now since, especially year 2020. Even though we launched in 2017, it was the year 2020 where we did a slight pivot to take on this extra layer, you could say, of being the bridge association between the designers and builders and integrators. So you're going to see some things out of us that further solidify that. So our focus on there is to bring the designers to our site to get ideas for some of these brands, to read some articles, which are very high level articles. They don't get in the weeds, but if they want to learn what a lighting, the benefits of a lighting control system, or the top benefits of a shading system, or should I get a central control system or use multiple apps? There's articles
Yeah.
on the site that are very reference grade educational, and
Mm.
that all points to you. All of this really eventually points to, okay, now that you know this, here's the integrators in your area that you should go out and build a relationship with, right? So HTA was not designed ever to be a leads engine. I mean, that's not who we are. And the list of
Yeah.
100 reasons why a member might want to, or an integrator like you might be an HTA certified integrator, leads shouldn't be high on that list. But we do want to bring leads to our integrators. But importantly, that's part of changing the perception. Like that, again, like we're really pushing this. We want to get the word out there that the top integrators are actually design consultants first and
Yeah.
contractors second, and then service companies third, and that you have three phases. So you'll see more messaging like that to emphasize that. And we even want to start featuring some of their work on our website. So stay tuned on that. We got
Okay.
some really cool ideas coming up with.
So you guys are nationwide in the US.
Mhm.
What about outside of the US?
We're in Canada technically now already. We have, I think, 10 integrators in Canada that are certified, and we're about to launch in the UK very, very soon here. So be prepared for a press release on that, depending on how quick this podcast gets out.
So you're
But
going for
yeah.
global domination.
I don't see us really expanding beyond the UK, but because once you get outside the UK, from the research that I've done, I mean, there are of course integrators in rest of
Yeah.
Europe, but it's a lot smaller, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. I've learned a lot about the UK market in the last couple of years. There's some phenomenal firms over there, just amazing, uh,
Mm.
over 100-person companies, and
Wow.
yeah, and they do super yachts and like lots of super yachts, and they have divisions that travel through all of Europe doing homes. So apparently, if you're a very wealthy European, you will often lean on a integrator out of the UK to do your projects. At least the ones I've talked to. And I've talked to some phenomenal companies over there that are just amazing companies. So that's where, yeah, we're going to expand to that as well, to the UK. So we're really excited about that. And maybe Australia if we hear more demand. We used to
Mm.
hear some from Australia for a while, but we'll see.
We went to Norway as a family vacation this summer, and in Oslo, the hotel that we stayed at, not far from there, was a showroom for an AV company, which, they had TVs, receivers, speakers, some of the same brands that we sell. They had like small media rooms set up downstairs. So I thought that was fascinating to go halfway around the world and run into the same stuff that we do here in the States and in Los Angeles, specifically in California, all the way on the other side of the world. They have a showroom with similar products.
Yeah, yeah, it is neat. It is definitely a global expanse to that.
Yeah. Well, man, Josh, so informative and so helpful, not only for me, I'm sure it's going to be helpful for, the people we promote this to learn about, how to hire an HTA certified company and how to collaborate on projects using them to be a collaborator on your projects. So I really appreciate your time, and you guys do a great job there. We're happy to be a part of HTA and to kind of use that as our calling card to differentiate us from other integrators.
That's excellent. We're glad to have you part of it. And Mark, I have known you now for some years, and it's great to see you really taking an interest in the design and build community. So I champion that. That's great. That's the most fun you could have in this industry, is working on these kind of projects. So more power to you.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, thank you for joining us today on Beyond Average to Great. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your appreciation is by subscribing to our show and sharing it on your social media channels. Don't forget to tag me when you do. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, remember, be great.